So in a previous video, I talked about the Queen being the head of the Church of England, which I don't think a lot of people knew. So check that video out before you watch this one for a bit of context. Now, what I didn't say, which is going to be even more worrying if you did watch that video, is the fact that she is advised by none other than the Prime Minister. Now, my question is, why is the Queen, as the head of the church, being advised on church matters by the Prime Minister? Let's talk about that. Now, first things first, I want to say this, right? I've said this before on my channel and I'll say it again. The Queen is not really the person who's in control of the country or the royal family. In fact, I did a bit of research about this and I found out that over time there was actually a power struggle that went on between the Prime Minister and the Prime Ministers and the royal family, because although the royal family technically runs the country, the Prime Minister and the government actually had more sway with the people. And I think that was largely because of the fact that, the people could actually vote those people into power. And so therefore the power struggle came that when it would come down to it and there would be issues like between the monarchy and the Prime Minister, then the people would side with the Prime Minister, which would make it hard for the monarchy to stand anyway, because people would rather support what the Prime Minister is doing or the government, right? So over time, it's basically got to where we're at now, where pretty much, does the Queen technically have final say? Yes. Does she ever really use that? No. And why do I say that? Because when laws come into power in the United Kingdom, at least from my understanding, I was taught this at school actually, so if this isn't true, then the school system lied to me. But when the Queen comes into power, when the government makes decisions, they have to pass it through the Queen, but then the Queen just rarely ever says no to what they are telling her to do. Now, that in a sense, I don't necessarily have an issue with, because they are passing it through her, and so she could say yes or no. But where I do have a problem is when we move over now to the church, because a lot of people have a lot of things to say about the church. And I'm a Christian person, as you guys know. I'm a woman of God, I'm a woman of faith. And I really feel like when it's these types of details, these are the things that I wish people would understand before they just write off all of Christians and all Christianity, and know that like even people like me are frustrated about stuff like this, right? Because for me, I have an issue anyways with the Queen being the so-called head of the church, because Jesus is the high priest, that's what the Bible says, so he's the only priest that we need now. And other than that, we all are supposed to be accountable to someone, to some authority. So I have an issue with in a church setting, right? In a church setting, I have an issue with there being one person that's on top. Even in churches today that are not Church of England churches, other denominations, a lot of the time, in the proper ways of churches, you'll have a group of elders who lead something, and that's because of accountability. Because a lot of time having one person is not, I can't think of anywhere where a lot of time, at least in the New Testament, you have a group of elders or elders people, and there's more than one of them who are all helping and are accountable not just to themselves but to others, and also obviously to God. But because people can just say what they want about God, technically, that's why I believe, and a lot of Christians today would always say that if you're going to be, in a ministry, running a church, you should always have leadership that is above you, like in terms of like not really hierarchy, but just like maybe he's more experienced, more developed than you, to keep you in check. And that's a protective layer, really, more than anything, so that then you're not just doing craziness. And a lot of people who do craziness in churches today, it's like even a lot of the people that are being exposed today, you'll find they don't have people they're accountable to, who like are covering above them. And they also, a lot of them, when they are faced with people that are trying to correct them, they don't want to hear from that as well. So there's that. So I have an issue with the Prime Minister being the one who advises the Queen for a number of reasons. I believe that that's the case again because the power has shifted to the government, and the government has kind of strong-armed the monarchy. I believe that's why that exists. But it also means to me that a lot of the decisions being made by the Queen as far as the Church of England, which, like I said before, she's choosing all the bishops, the archbishops, etc., etc., right? People are walking into a church thinking that they're just seeing somebody that's chosen by God, and for all you know, it's chosen by Boris Johnson, right? The issue I have with that is that how do we know that this has anything to do with God? The likelihood is it's got the most to do with the prime minister's other potential agendas, right, which could have absolutely nothing to do with God, absolutely nothing to do with Christianity. And this frustrates me because the Church of England is probably one of the most prominent churches in the UK, and I actually think this is why, I'm not gonna lie, not to be rude to the people in the UK, but the church is I think the last time I heard the statistics, it's something like only 5% of British people go to church, which is very different from countries like America, believe it or not, which are a lot more, and just a lot of other countries in the world, like a lot more, I would say, spiritual / religious than the UK. And I believe largely that's because this Church of England thing, in my opinion, I'll just say it, is very much a scam. Because even the way that the church has developed in the United Kingdom is largely because of however the king or queen and or governments, whatever, has felt and what they wanted to do, which I'm not going to lie, you shouldn't be changing things because of your feelings. The Bible was the same yesterday, today, and forever. Like, God's word stays the same. So it's weird that people do that. But ultimately, that's technically the, you know, the religion or the church that if you talk to a British person, they're associating when they think of Christianity. They're thinking of, you hear a lot of British people say, oh, they used to go to church. They only go to church on Easter and Christmas, and they go with their nan, you know, their grandma or something. So I have an issue with that as a Christian person, because Prime Minister should not be having any say on not be advising the Queen as the head of the church. That doesn't make any sense. If anything, as a Christian person, it should actually be the other way around. That's really, if anything, the way that it should be, in my opinion. And that's not to say that I'm saying for the Prime Minister to be shoving everything down, Christianity down, you know, the country's throats. But what I'm saying is, if you've got somebody who's supposed to be connected to God, which technically is what they're suggesting by the Queen being the head of the church, then that person is supposed to be having what, like, in I'm using the terms in terms of what we're talking about here, because as I already said, that this whole system is, I believe, isn't the way it's supposed to work. But let's say, then if anything, if the Queen is the one hearing from God and she's the one highest in the food chain, then if anything, she should be informing the Prime Minister, because she's supposed to have this higher knowledge or whatever, which I highly doubt is the case in this case. Because I'm not going to lie, if it was true, where you see people of God who are in power, it has an impact. It has an impact, like it did in the Bible, because you'll see people will know about things that are going to happen before they happen. They'll be prepared. I'm not going to get into politics, but there have been situations like that in the world today. But we won't get too much into that today. So yeah, I think it's very inappropriate. I want to know what you guys think, so let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. I think it's highly inappropriate, whatever your religion is that you believe in, for you the government in that particular country to be the ones advising. And that's a massive conflict of interest, in my opinion. Huge conflict of interest, because now the Prime Minister, if they want to, and this is what people do, because one thing I've realized, guys, is that because I believe God built us to have like everybody talks about having a void, right? And we do have a void, and that void is a God-sized void, which is why you can't fill it with anything else. And God left us that because we were always supposed to have a relationship with him, right? But we don't. So it's normal that people believe in something, whether it's Christianity or not, or they want to, and therefore Christianity and or belief systems are very powerful, a very powerful tool over people. And a lot of people, even if they don't believe themselves, recognize that that's a quality about human beings, and they use that to their advantage, right? And so that's why for me it's important to actually have a relationship with God myself, so that I'm not just here being and a personal one, not one where somebody has to tell me everything, right? That's why I believe God gave the Bible. So it's like, look, you can have this for yourself, and you can do this for yourself without anybody else, because if it's somebody else, they can take the opportunity to twist that for their own gain, which is why a lot of people nowadays, especially with a lot of churches that are being exposed, they're upset. But a lot of them, it's because they never read the Bible for themselves. They never talk to God really for themselves. They were treating a person as a God in their life, right? And so that's why I believe that, you know, it's wrong for, you know, a PM to be Prime Minister to be advising the Queen. Seems off, because it just seems like they utilize, and there's been historically, when people want to establish certain things, they'll go to the Pope. This way you'll find the Pope will say something, right? And then a whole bunch of people will go with it just because the Pope said it, as if like the Pope is, and I do get it to some extent. I do believe that church leaders have to understand the responsibility that as a leader, people are going to follow what you say, which is why I'm disappointed that in the way that a lot of churches have behaved, over the years, particularly in the last couple of years. I'm disappointed because I think they should have shown better leadership, but they're still not Jesus and they're still not God. And so and the whole purpose is that you're supposed to you recognize that, so you don't abuse your position, and you understand that being in that position, and the Bible talks about this, that you are going to be judged more harshly having that position, because you are a shepherd. Essentially, you are a leader, and so God is going to count those souls against your name. And I don't mean necessarily like if they go to heaven or whatever, but I mean what you did, how you stewarded them. Did you lie to them? Did you know that you were lying to them? Did you lead them astray? Did you do this for your own personal gain? And the Bible even talks about that. So anyways, you guys let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below about all of this. This really irritated me when I found this out, and it irritates me especially as a woman of faith, where like people have so much negative things to say about faith and God. Majority of the stuff that I hear has absolutely nothing to do with what God actually says in the Bible or how God actually is. It's a lot to do with people abusing religion to their own gain. And why is that possible? Because we do have a God-sized void that was created there, because we were created to be in relationship with God. Like, that's how it was supposed to be. So anyways, you guys let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button. I'd really appreciate that. Of course, like the video as well if you did like it. Other than that, God bless you all, and I'll see you in my next one.